It's Wednesday. You know what that means? It's not Dynamite tonight. It's actually just In Your House. Actually, we're going to talk about that. I don't know why I led with that, but here we are.
You're supposed
Actually,
to
here.
lead every day with that.
Yeah. Well, while you're here, quick one thing you liked, one thing you didn't like about the last episode of Dynamite. Do you got
Uh,
something?
I don't. I'll be completely honest with you. The shifting around of the TV schedule, I still haven't watched it. Um,
Ah,
so I'm sure there was probably fine enough stuff on it.
I will say so. So I watched it. I watched it today, or finished watching it. The Young Bucks match was, good. There's still some whatever finishes there. They need to quit with that. But the thing that's I thought was more important, the thing I didn't like, Cody brought out his new tag team partner against uh, QT Marshall, Brock Anderson, Arn Anderson's son, who looked like he walked straight off the golf course from his like fraternity's outing. Like, come on, man! If you're gonna show up, like show up wearing like I don't know something good, like something that actually looks like you're a wrestler, not like it's not doesn't look good. It looks like nepotism to me, like for the way he wandered in.
Yeah,
A good thing.
you've got a slew of wrestlers serving out 90-day non-competes, and you just stroll in here like you just finished a 12 of White Claw. Like,
And the thing I liked is that Miro Evil Uno match. It was pretty obvious that Evil Uno was not going to pull off a win here, but it was a good match. And what I really loved was Miro's facial expressions. Evil Uno chopped Miro once, and I'd never seen someone that looked like he was legitimately about to murder somebody like the Miro did. So like Miro's facial expressions, Miro being all in on this is making this run successful. If only AEW could get back to a regular schedule, then maybe like that would things would be right with the world again. Especially with like things opening up and like people actually doing things on the weekend. Like, it's hard to catch up on the wrestling when it's on a Friday night.
yeah. Plus, I mean, coming off of SmackDown, I had no interest in Dynamite. I just wanted to watch Dominic Mysterio get murdered by Roman Reigns over and over and over. So,
If you haven't seen that clip, it's quite spectacular. Like if you think about it logically, it's like, yeah, there's something that he landed on that was not just the hard mat covered concrete, I guess. But yeah, it's beautiful. And it's something that they should have done with Chris Jericho falling off that off the blood and guts cage, whatever. Because like that was how it should have been done.
yeah, where you can't see him hit, and then you get the crash pad out of the way before the camera moves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been able to see it because it looked silly at Daly's place for that fall. But yeah, I think the one thing that was missing there, um, they can pipe in all the crowd noise in the world, but I couldn't get a thud sound like him hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Um, that was all that was missing. But yeah, Roman gave no fucks. He just picked that kid up, chucked him. I've never, they do weird shit like that all the time in wrestling. I have never like legitimately seen a yeet moment in pro wrestling, and that was it.
Man, if you want to talk about a thud of someone flying out of the ring and landing on the mat outside, there's like a whole compilation of when Trent was in WWE where he would just like dive outside the ring and then his competitor would just move out of the way, and so he would just dive and just slam on that ground. Like how he's even still walking, I'm not even entirely sure. But let's talk about In Your House.
Yes, let's do it.
So we started off with MSK and man,
Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed against Legado del Fantasma. That's a retraction from me from last episode where I said Delgado del Fantasma. So clearly how closely attention I've been paying to NXT here lately.
In in fairness, I'm just going to start calling them Ghost League.
Yeah.
Even though that sounds like a shitty Ghost Hunters show, uh, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it.
I think you texted me that you thought, because you watched this before I got a chance to, and you said that it lasted too short. But I mean, it was short, but it was pretty furious. There was particularly a splash from Bronson Reed that I looked particularly brutal that I loved.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, the I get worried with these cards when they kick off and like a handful of the matches are short, because this match and then the women's match both only ran like 18 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you had six guys in this one, tagging, so I thought this was going to get a little more of a showcase. Um, Really, I wanted a little more time just because. I mean, you get to see a ton of Escobar in the ring. You know, Bronson Reed's had a ton of singles matches, so you know what they can do. Um, some time for MSK to shine would have been great, but I mean, the other two guys, Wild and I can't remember the other Legado del Fantasma guy's name. Um, they're awesome to watch when they get time in the ring. Um, so I kind of thought that it sort of it kept them from getting too much spotlight, which I would have loved to see them just let the two tag teams go off, because they could have put on a damn show. But yeah, it's a good match. I like Bronson Reed. He reminds me of like a slightly less agile Keith Lee in a lot of ways. Um, he kind of suicidas instead of the just the ungodly dive over the top. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities there. I mean, obviously, body type is one of them, but yeah, it was a good match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. A good way to kind of kick off the thing. I was actually impressed, kind of just talking about the atmosphere of it. I was actually impressed at how many people they were able to fit inside that Capitol Wrestling Center with like a tiered thing that they had going on. When they were talking about bringing more people in, I was like, how? But I mean, I guess they removed the screens, and there was just built in, I guess, all the tech behind it. Like that was area that people could sit as well. Like the way they had the screens in there before, it felt really tight. But I guess when they removed it, I mean, it makes sense. They planned for
And
this.
And it
So
looked too like the barricade was kind of closed in a little bit further around the ring, so they bought some space there, and then closing in the ramp and just doing the straight entrance like AEW does most of the time. I think that bought them a lot of space. But yeah, it looked to be, and I've been to tapings at Full Sail. It looked to have about that capacity to it. So
yeah.
yeah.
And I enjoyed Todd Pettengill. I didn't watch the pay-per-views from the 90s, so I don't really get the reference there like so much, but it was an entertaining, like different way to doing a pay-per-view, where it's normally just some kind of like a WWE pay-per-view, just some name for violence, and then like I don't know, and maybe a gimmick match. So like that's that's about the only thing different. But like this is like something actually legitimately different. And I do like that NXT's been like doing these themed pay-per-views kind of like WCW did in the 90s. And it really brings that air to it. I mean, and AEW too, but I think they NXT puts a little bit more budget towards it than like AEW's like a couple palm trees or whatever they do for
Yeah,
like Bash at the Beach.
and I think too, like the presentation on In Your House in particular, it set the bar really high. And then I don't know if you actually watched the throwback SmackDown that they did, where everything was CG, like even the
Oh,
fist, and like it's in a
yeah.
warehouse somewhere. Just
Yeah.
that's what we wanted. Just go put the damn thing on the stage for one night, like. But this is how you should do nostalgia shows. You
Yeah.
shouldn't don't use CG. I mean, that's like Lucas tinkering with Star Wars. Just leave the Muppets. We're good with it. We were good with it 40 fucking years ago. Leave it alone.
I mean, hey, Vince loves Muppets, so I would actually be like, why don't we get more Muppets in here? There's someone sent me a tweet a couple weeks ago specifically about Vince McMahon and Muppets, where he like congratulated, like Vince doesn't tweet very often, but he like went out of his way to congratulate Kermit the Frog on his birthday. And I'm like, what is happening here? So he's a
Oh,
strange man. Let's move on to the next match. Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li.
I got exactly what I wanted out of this one. I basically knew how this was going to go. Martinez just she always looks like a badass, and that was what was going to be most important to me in this one.
Yeah, and then we had that we had some shenanigans kind of at the end there.
I
Not entirely sure what's happening, but yeah, it's happening.
the 1,000-year-old dragon lady stood up, and then kind of force choked, but actually grabbed hold of Mercedes Martinez a couple of times. I don't know. It was a little weird. Um, I kept waiting for the mask to come off and it to be somebody that I was supposed to recognize, and I'm gonna be honest, I probably wouldn't. Um, but I think that was the weird part for me was that just they kept the whole veil and everything on, and then it just was not a part of the weekly broadcast this week. So I don't know what the hell is going on. Um, or it might be they may have edited it out of the Hulu version that I watched. But
Yeah, we only watch the Hulu versions over here at the Dark Match. So who knows what we
too,
missed, the 30 minutes or whatever, the 20 minutes or whatever that they cut out in the
I
broadcast.
I almost said there's too much wrestling to watch, and then I remembered that I still watch Main Event and 205 Live. So
uh, so
yeah,
what's our next match here?
LA
Remind me.
Knight and Cameron Grimes for the $1 million championship.
How could I forget? Yes. Uh, how are you doing?
I I said it in the predictions. I wasn't going to be upset either way. I wanted Cameron Grimes to get the win, but even with LA Knight picking up a win here, being the $1 million champion, I'm okay with it. That guy's awesome too. I think the only thing that's going to disappoint me is that they didn't end it in a fashion that was going to turn them into a tag team. Because
Yeah.
that would have been perfect for me. Like I would have bought all their merch. But well, I say that, but then I said the same thing for RK Bro, and then they released the merch, and like I'm not buying that shit. That shit is dumb.
Still not as bad as that AJ Styles shirt from TNA. And then if you haven't, uh, the very unfortunate, let's just say it's like a bunch of white paint splotches everywhere on the front of it. It is, and you can maybe make that leap what that might look like and what it might be confused for, and that might be the world's worst. And Matt's looking at that right now on his computer screen. And have you not seen this shirt before?
I have not, but since I've already dropped like 3 F-bombs and a couple of shits, I'm just gonna say it. That shirt's covered in cum stains.
Oh man.
This is the podcast that gets us kicked off Apple.
Oh. Well,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. All
uh,
right. Moving on. We
what
have
was that? Well, so I'll just say, like, I think I was disappointed, but when we'll circle back to this week's episode of NXT, I think it all kind of makes sense. But what's the next match here?
we had the women's championship. Raquel Gonzalez defending against Ember Moon.
I thought it was pretty solid. Like, I liked I think um, they described it as a spinning Vader bomb on in the corner from Raquel to Ember. I thought that was a move to me that stuck out, and like, I was like, that's crazy. And like as they kept on saying in the commentary, the how far Raquel has come in such a short amount of time, she's just got a very natural gift to allow her to progress this fast and so well. Like, she is pretty great in the ring, and again, like, she is very short time, like Like, she may have won today, but I don't think she's going to be a champion for a long time. I think eventually Vince is going to notice her, and she's not long for NXT.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm kind of I've marveled at her for months now. Um, and what really stands out about her outside of just how good she's gotten in the ring, she's got like a sneaky charisma about her where like I'm intrigued even when she's just like standing behind Dakota Kai. Like there is something about her that like she's a star. And it's not going to take Vince long to notice.
Yeah. And then let's get to that main event. Let's just kind of go on through. It was a mess, but a good mess. I don't know.
I
Like,
I mean, I'm not gonna completely shit on it. It was exactly what I expected. Um, I I don't know. I think that the part of the match that stuck out for me more than anything was Kyle O'Reilly eating the pin. Um,
or the submission, I guess.
or yeah, the submission.
Yeah.
Um, every other guy in this match has shit. Johnny Gargano lost his North American Championship, and by the next episode of NXT, he was in the NXT Championship like picture. Like
Yeah.
he survives losses constantly. He's lost every belt he's ever had almost immediately. He's basically Sasha Banks. Um, so it was a little weird. I mean, Pete Dunne has just took losses to Balor, and he's fine, and things like that. Um, Adam Cole, you're not going to knock Adam Cole off the pedestal. I thought it was a little questionable that it be Kyle O'Reilly, who is clearly the guy that you're like trying to build right now, that isn't
Yeah.
already like established as one of your top guys. I mean, he's been in the top match a couple of times now, but they're still working him up to like that status. I feel like so it was a little weird for him to eat the finish when any of the other guys could have survived it like it was nothing.
Yeah. To me, I think it should have been Gargano. He's playing a very goofy character right now. That guy could eat a million pins, I think, and it would be fine. Like, and he'd still be getting as much TV time and deserving of that. Uh, yeah, it's kind of a lame finish that kind of takes away from like such a ridiculous effort these guys went through, like all of them. Maybe with the exception of Cross, he did his thing, but like his job was just to be big and menacing, and he got to do that. Everybody else really just that kind of moonsault, and then the kick to, I forget who it was, to Dunn maybe. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, like
the
that.
double super kick
Yeah,
that was nuts.
yeah, like there were some crazy spots in this, but yeah, I feel like it was kind of not quite there.
That was another one of the things that kind of stood out for me was that Cross was actually like part of the action uh, at least 80% of the time. You know, if it was like Brock Lesnar versus four guys, they would have put him through the table a minute and a half into this match, and 26 minutes later, he somehow sits up and
Yeah,
like gets the win. But like Cross actively participated in most of this, so I mean, yes, his job was to be the large menacing figure, um, surrounded by. I mean, I wouldn't assume that any of those other guys are 5'10" or taller. Um,
right.
maybe, but not a one of them peak 6 feet. I wouldn't think. So yeah, he was going to look like a monster, uh, and did. At that point where he was standing in the center and they were all surrounding him, I'm like, holy crap, he looks enormous.
Yeah. Yeah, I've stood next to Pete Dunne before, and yeah, he's shorter than me, so I'm 6'2", so yeah. Uh, well, what that ended to is, it was bedlam all night between the women, between all sorts of people throughout the night. William Regal looked exacerbated, right? I don't know. Is that the right?
Exasperated.
Exasperated, yeah. Uh, um,
English is a hard language. You'll get it eventually.
uh, and he was very upset at the end of the show and promised a change on Tuesday. And I look at the rumors and stuff, so nothing was really a surprise. But we got to Tuesday, and man, Regal came to the ring, cut a great promo. He could turn on the waterworks. Like, I don't know any other wrestler that can turn. I don't think any, the ones that I've actually gone into acting afterwards can turn on the waterworks like Regal did that night. He was crying, about to quit. Cross came out to witness, front row seat for his retirement, and we get that wonderful Godzilla inspired theme song hit that airwaves, and Samoa Joe comes out, and Regal reveals that he was initially going to step down, talk to Joe, and ask him to take over as GM. And Samoa Joe says no, but I'll be your enforcer. And honestly, of all the, and unfortunately, it is a pretty low bar in the end. But of all the like kind of in-ring promos, this has been the best for me. Like any WWE product, this has been the best in-ring promo to me in years. I can't tell you what the last one I thought was like amazing. Probably just something like Daniel Bryan's retirement or something, or like Roman Reigns beating, going into remission. But like that's the real life stuff. That's not an actual WWE written storyline. And so I thought this was all well done. It's so well hinged on the presence of all three men and Scarlett. And yeah, I thought it worked.
Yeah, you're not kidding about the waterworks. Like, I've watched wrestlers' actual retirement announcements where they did that, like the tears
Yeah.
weren't even that believable. Um, hell, I was afraid he was going to say he had leukemia for a minute there. Uh, yeah, that was that he's something else. But yeah, I'm excited for Joe. We've already seen him choke out Adam Cole. So the enforcer role is going to work for him, and I'm sure it'll get. It's NXT, so it's going to go a hell of a lot better than Bully Ray as the enforcer for Ring of Honor did.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I
Samoa
mean,
Joe's going to confront people and be like, just be a fan. Yeah.
Joe's going to like try to instigate fights because he can't
Yeah.
hit back until they swing first. So yeah, it's just going to be him choking people out on a weekly basis. But I'm good with it. That was a. You're right. That was one of the better non wrestling segments that has been on WWE programming. Um,
And this is not
I'll
counting the
add,
packages that they cut together,
yeah,
because packages
I'll,
are always great. Like they would do an excellent job of that. I'm talking about live in the ring. I think
yeah.
that was so good.
I'll add the caveat. It's the best non wrestling stuff not involving Roman Reigns that they've had in several years. But the Roman Reigns stuff is only so good because it's the collective of everything that this has been.
Yeah.
Whereas this could have just been a one off, and it was that damn good.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I think I texted you that I'm glad that NXT is no longer counter programming AEW at the moment, because then that would make my decisions a lot tougher on which I'm. Well, I mean, it still would be I'd watch AEW live because it comes on 3 hours earlier here than it does. I can't watch NXT live, for various reasons, how USA decides to do things. But yeah, it still would make my attention would be a little bit more towards NXT. I love Joe. I love Regal. It's going to be, I think, a good pairing.
Yeah,
And
it's also really hard too because look, I'm going to put this out there, and our six listeners may bomb us with hate mail for it. If I had to put the two rosters side by side, considering that we were working with a hurt Kenny Omega, if I had to put the two rosters side by side, I still got to go NXT, but it's close. Don't get me wrong. And I think that it's just a more consistent product. Um, and I can only say that about NXT. The rest of WWE stuff is not. But it's just consistent, and it's consistently good. Um, Hell, every now and then they have episodes that don't even have promos. It's just like four badass matches, and then the show ends. And
I mean,
that
to be fair, that the episodes you're watching about the promos could have just been an episode that actually had promos, but that's what they decided to cut out for the
yeah,
week.
the other hour of the show was Hit Row, so Hulu was like, they just talked for an hour. We're not going to waste time with this. Cut. Delete. Um, but yeah, no, it really would be a tough choice. But I mean, Joe definitely swings the needle. Um, I think.
And I'm glad, as much as I wanted him to see him do like a New Japan run and all this run, I feel like he must know that maybe, the doctor said, hey, what's not a good idea, and this is all speculation, but if that's what it happened, I'm glad he didn't go to like AEW and be another over 40 guy that can't actually wrestle, that's going to take up a spot. Like, even if, I mean, I'm sure Joe would be a fantastic producer. We already know he's good on commentary, not amazing on commentary, but he's good. He'd maybe fit in better than Paul White, I guess, does. And, maybe he'll get better, but, um, like,
We could replace Marvez with Samoa Joe, because I lose interest every time he comes on TV.
I did like how they made it where he just appeared in the most random places, and they kind of made a joke out of that. But yeah, no, I agree there. But I'm glad they didn't, he didn't end up going to if he couldn't wrestle, that he didn't go to AEW and just waste another position there. I feel like Tony Khan would have hired him anyway, but because I think he is a great mind. But I think that's also a really good get for NXT as well. Like, he can be that on screen role as an enforcer and also help out backstage, and he can kind of produce some of these matches. I think he
I
can do
think
both.
too, because I was thinking about it like before we started this too. I think that there's a big push. Vince is really looking for big guys again, and they like Otis got sent back for a bit to the performance center to work on some stuff, as did a lot of the bigger guys not too long ago. I think having Joe there, it's also going to be like a very important coaching role for guys that don't have the 6'3", 260 ex football player body type. How to do things a little more safely, and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be great for him. And as Tuesday showed, he still gets to do a little bit of physicality,
Yeah.
um, where he probably wouldn't get that anywhere else if he was just in a predominantly producer role. So that I think that was kind of alluring to him, because Lord knows he wants to get back in the ring, but I think he's getting a little older, and if the doctors say he probably shouldn't, this will let him choke people out, but not at the risk of, like, you know dying on television.
And please God, hope he tells some of these bigger guys that he might be giving some coaching to, do not take uh, a a bump onto concrete stairs like he did in TNA. Don't look up that bump if you have a weak stomach. It is not great. Um, yeah, but that's it. Samoa Joe is in your house every Tuesday, and we will be back in your house, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to keep on beating this dead horse. We're going to be back this weekend with a Hell in a Cell preview show. I have no idea what's going on because I have been watching WWE, but I'll make some stabs at some guesses at things. At least Matt will probably be able to give a more educated guess than I will.
Both of your heavyweight belts are being defended inside the cage. I was dead on when I said that all of this was inevitably going to get us to Roman squashing Rey Mysterio like a bug. Um, he will be doing so inside a giant steel cage. The Usos will probably emerge from underneath to further beat the hell out of Rey Mysterio. Um, yeah, I don't. Outside of those two matches, I couldn't tell you. I'm sure half of them are just the exact same matches from WrestleMania rematch. So we'll just call this WrestleMania Backlash 2.0, um, with steel cages. but yeah, there's not a whole lot that jumps off the card on this one, but we will hit that later this week. In the meantime, watch NXT. There's a great segment with the $1 million belt. There's
Yes.
also an incredible tornado tag match that main events this show. Grizzled Young Veterans, Ciampa and Thatcher. They beat the living hell out of each other. It is a great match.
All right. Well, we'll see you then.